Greetings friends and happy Father's Day! In this advanced ability guide I'm going to show you how to make a returning weapon, kind of like Kratos' axe or Thor's hammer. In this video I'm going to show you how to throw a weapon, make it so that it sticks in whatever it hits, so it'll get stuck in a wall or a tree or whatever it might be, and then when you press the same button that you used to throw it, it will then come flying back to you and you'll sort of grab it and be able to use it again and throw it and so on and so forth. Alrighty friends, without further ado, let's get stuck in. Ooooh. Hey friends, I'm just going to show you some of the functionality. At the moment I've got my very basic axe / returning weapon here. When I press R1, I throw it, it gets nicely stuck in that particular object, and then when I press R1 again, it flies back and I grab it, and then we are good. It also works if I throw it off into the distance. It doesn't have to get stuck in something first. You can kind of just throw it and immediately pull it back. Kind of like in God of War and that sort of classic like returning weapon, Thor's hammer sort of a vibe. But yeah friends, and I'm going to show you how to go about doing this. Are ye? Okay friends, so the first thing we're going to look at is the axe logic. I've got these sort of organized almost like little bullet points. It sort of does, this is the first thing, this is the second, this is the third, the fourth, the fifth. So these are kind of organized chronologically. The first thing is the axe tag, so that we know where the axe is. This is important for when we actually call the axe back, when we do the sort of recall. Then we've got the impact sensor. So when we throw the axe, this makes it so that when an impact or anything is sensed like that, it's going to make it immovable. So in other words, when we throw it, it's going to be flying, it's going to be flying. When it hits a wall or whatever, then it's going to get stuck where it is. Next, we've got the controller sensor, and this detects when R1 is pressed, and R1 you could bind it to R2 or anything really, but when we press the button that's going to be the recall button, it's then going to trigger a counter, and this counter is going to make it return to hero. So it's got this follower over here that makes it move in the direction of the hero. As for this particular this guy over here, I've got it moving at 11 meters per second. I've got it at 100% strength. Hero tag, so that's another tag that we've got in our character. You can call it player or character or player one or whatever you want. I haven't done anything particular here. I've just made the max distance quite big so that we know where the max distance is. This is kind of like the recall distance. If it gets further than this, if you reckon the axe is going to be further away than this, then you can just increase it. Alrighty. Then the other thing that we've got is the rotator, which just makes it spin in the opposite direction to the direction that it's thrown when we recall it. I've got it at kind of a really high sort of speed, a negative speed, so that it spins backwards as opposed to forwards. And you can adjust that by moving this over here. I didn't also make it like perfectly straight. I wanted to have it sort of have a bit of an angle, if you see what I mean here. So I didn't use a grid snap. You can use a grid snap if you want it to be perfectly straight. But I set it off a little bit just to add a little bit of funkiness. Make sure you also make it local space. Otherwise, if you throw it this way, it'll be cool. But if you throw it that way and you recall it, it'll be spinning end over end in the other direction. The next thing is just on your controller sensor, make sure that the important properties that it's set to remote controllable, so that you can be possessing your puppet over here, and when you press the recall button, you don't have to be possessing the axe in order to recall it. Okay, sweet. Next thing is that when it starts to get recalled, we've got our trigger zone over here that's detecting hero. If we look into our puppet quickly, we'll see that we've actually got the hero tag over here. Make sure also, just a quick note, is that this tag, make sure that it's placed somewhere high in their chest, because by default, if you put a tag in, it'll be by their feet. And then you'll be recalling your axe and you'll probably chop one of your toes off, which isn't fun. And then finally we've got a wireless, so this is the trigger zone that detects the hero, and then it makes it non-collidable. The reason that we make it non-collidable is this. Look, I'll delete the connection here quickly. So I throw it, and if it's collidable, then it'll basically like hit you as it returns. So that's why it's important to ensure that you've got that connection and make it non-collidable. And here we go there, and if we call it back, okay, sweet, it's all good. The reason that we only make it non-collidable as it's returning to you is so that if we have like a bunch of objects in the way, they can get knocked out of the way when we actually use the recall, for example. The next thing is we've got a wireless receiver, and this will make sense when we look at the puppet. But the wireless receiver basically checks, okay, is the axe now back? If it is back in hand, then it's going to destroy this axe, which is the thrown axe. Because what we have is actually two axes. We have this axe, which is the thrown one that has all the logic built in, and then we have the axe that is in our puppet's hand. There's no logic in this axe over here. This is just the sort of the look of it, so it looks like your character is holding the axe, but all the logic goes in the one that is actually thrown. So we've got two separate axes. Okay, sweet friends, and when it does that, when it detects that the axe is back, it will then destroy it. Okay, cool. So I'm just gonna now look into our puppet. Okay, friends, so there's quite a bit going on here, but don't worry, I'll go over it step by step. So first we've got our tag here, which is our hero tag. Once again, make sure that it's aligned with like your chest or head or whatever it might be, so it's a little bit higher. When we press the R1 button, and once again you can of course assign this to any button that you choose, the R1 button is going to go to this counter and it's going to add 1. When this counter is full, it is going to go next output for this particular selector. For this selector we have 4 outputs. A is kind of just the default position when nothing's happening. During A, your axe is visible and you can do anything from this stage. If you want to do your attacks or whatever it might be, then that's where you'll want to be in A. And you can of course throw. When we press R1, which is our throw button, it's going to add 1 to the counter, it's going to plus 1 and take us to output B. Output B is our throwing animation. So there we have our little throwing animation. Let me move this stuff out of the way. So that looks pretty cool. If we look at it a little bit closely, these keyframes over here are just the animation. Next we've got the emitter, and the emitter is what shoots this axe over here, which is our sort of thrown axe. So you could see it as the axe that's in your hand and the axe that is thrown and will be recalled. This over here is this keyframe over here, which I neglected to name, just makes the axe in hand invisible. Okay, sweet friends. Then when this timeline finishes, we're going to follow this here on end trigger. It's going to take us to C. Now C has 2 wires coming out of it. The first one is axe in hand invisible. So basically this just makes it so when you're in the C stage, that means you've thrown your axe, it's currently stuck in something or still flying away, and you don't have it in your hand anymore. So in other words, it's invisible. The second thing it does is when we've got C is it resets the counter. The reason we have that is when we press R1, we make it so that you can then throw the axe, but if we didn't have the counter here and it wasn't full, then you could just press R1 and it would make the sort of axe appear in your hand again, and it kind of just wouldn't work. So in other words, C makes it so that the axe is invisible and it resets the counter so that you can press R1 again. When we press R1 again, of course the counter is full. It takes us to the next output, which takes us to D. And what happens in D, we've got a little catch piece of logic here. And this is what catch looks like. Okay friends, so inside our catch microchip, we're going to start from the left. We've got the trigger zone that detects the axe tag. We remember the axe tag. If we go into our axe over here, we've got our axe tag just over there. And when it detects that the axe tag is within a particular area, in other words when it's close and it's nearby, it's then going to add 1 to this counter. So that's basically like when the axe is close, something is going to happen. First, we're going to have this wireless transmitter that says the axe is now back. And if we go to our axe again, we remember this because we've got our wireless receiver over here. And when this detects that the axe is back, and also note that on zone size, I've got this set to the whole scene, just so that no matter where the axe is, it'll always be able to tell. So when the axe is nearby, it says the axe is back. When the axe detects that the axe is back, you know, that particular signal has been transmitted, it's going to destroy the thrown axe, and we're going to make the axe that was at one point invisible, previously invisible, when we're like on part C of this selector, it's going to be made visible again. And I shall show you how the visibility works now. So the axe is back, that is transmitted. Then it's also going to power this timeline. And what this timeline is, it's basically just the kind of catch animation. Cha-cha. 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 So there's nothing fancy in here. Just that when the counter is full, it resets the timeline and it gives it power. The playback mode is set to once. That's cool, that's cool. Then the next thing is, how does the axe in your hand become visible again? Well, we have the counter, and when it is not full, so we've got a not gate. When it is not full, the axe will be invisible. So the hand axe is going to be invisible when it's not full, but when the axe is nearby, it's going to say, okay, cool, the axe is back, triggering the axe itself to destroy itself, the thrown one. It's going to give us the catching animation, and it's going to be, okay, it's no longer true that it's not here, so we're going to make it visible again, and we forget about making it invisible. Okay, sweet friends. Okay friends, so one more time from the beginning. We've got our tag here, which is our hero or player tag. When we press R1, it activates the counter. This takes us to point B in the selector, where we've got the throw animation and we've got the emitter, just like that. Ho-ho. The axe then becomes invisible. If R1 is pressed again, then it is going to activate our catch, where the axe gets pulled back and it comes towards the player again, no matter where the player is. And if it gets close enough, it's going to make it so that the axe disappears, it's no longer invisible in your hand, and it does the little catch animation. If we look at our axe one more time, we've got the tag that identifies where the axe is. If it hits anything, it's going to stop moving. If we press R1 while it is out there flying, it's going to start coming back, or whatever button you choose. It's going to be not collidable when it comes back to the player, and that's because we want that to be that way, because if it isn't, then it's going to knock our character for a 6 and he's going to go flying. And then of course when the axe is back, it's close enough again, it's going to delete itself and we're just going to have the one in hand. Okay, sweet friends, so this is a pretty cool functioning thing at the moment. I will add sort of new functionality in a second part video where I'm going to show you how to actually do this to something that is a moving target. So in other words, how to make it stick into a person and then sort of pull it back. Because at the moment it's not actually able to do that. If for example I get us a little puppet, I will demonstrate the limitations of this at the minute. And what happens is, if you've got a normal little dude over here, is if you have this guy, he does his little throw, it sticks in this guy, but now if you move him, you'll see that the axe actually stays in position. I'm going to show you how to make it stick into a character in the part 2 video. But I think, friends, that for now this is enough. I hope you found it useful, and I shall catch you on the flip-flop. Peace out, friends. Woo-woo! Hey, thanks for watching, friends. I just want to give a massive shout out to my Patreon patrons, or as I like to call them, the Mean Knights. Thank you so much, Tap Giles. Ooh, thanks so much, Tap Sensei. Whoop whoop whoop. And Salt Levels Max, my first patron. Ah, ye. Friends, if you want to support your boy and get access to some bonus content, consider becoming a patron. Thanks for watching, friends. Peace out.